Good morning, class. My name's Miss Harvey and I'm here today to talk to you about an incredibly pressing matter. Are unicorns real? Now, you might be sat there thinking, Miss Harvey, are you okay? I know unicorns aren't real. I've never seen them and they're always involved in fantasy fiction. Now, I'm going to stop you there. Through this speech, I'm going to persuade you to maybe reconsider that automatic thought of course they're not real. So to start off with, I think it's really important to introduce to you what a unicorn is. So here we have an artist's representation of a unicorn, and they are quite notable. They are the body of a horse, often in a kind of dappled white or grey colour. In some artist representation, they have been known to have a magical sheen or glow about them because moonlight tends to bounce off their beautiful hides. But the most distinctive thing about a unicorn is the singular spiral horn that protrudes from their forehead, sometimes up to 1 metre in length. It makes them unusual looking because this horn has supposedly many magical or particularly health-related actions and abilities. So how and why do I think unicorns are a true possibility for being real? Well, let me start you off with some etymological facts. Here on the screen behind me, you will see a variety of different languages of how, in a variety of languages, how unicorn is spelt and said. Now you'll notice that there are obviously some clear links between the Germanic root and the Latinate root, of which our language, English, comes from. So you've got unicorns and you've got einhorn, so the O-R-N-S from the German obviously comes over. And then you've got the Latin with the uni, meaning one. Okay, so the one horn, cornus actually in Latin is also horn. There's that. And interestingly, cornucopia, which you may have read in a very famous book called The Hunger Games, is about the idea of a horn of plenty, something that you'll get lots from, which kind of links back to my idea about this magical healing properties that these horns have. But what is interesting is not actually those from the Germanic and Latin. It's your Indian, your Chinese, your Persian, and to some extent you could argue also the Greek. Now these are ancient languages, particularly Persian and Greek, and Chinese obviously is on the complete antithesis of the globe to our European languages that are noted on that board. And for languages to develop, something like a word like water, for example, the reason that word develops in lots of different languages is because water exists. It's not a word of mouth about that item. It's water. Every language has a word for water. Now, for unicorns to exist in China and the Chinese language, which is very, very ancient, and for it to exist in ancient Greek and Latin, therefore those two communities never met, never spoke, yet they both have the word for unicorn. To me, that proves that these unicorns, these mythical, magical beings, clearly existed in both of those areas, communities and cultures to have a word for it. A little bit of biology for you now. There are 5 animals on the screen there for you, from a narwhal to rhinoceroses to goats, and they all share this kind of spiraled horn, either in singular or in plural. Now that to me tells you that biologically animals do exist with such bodily features. So the idea of having a singular horn protruding from the forehead of a horse is not beyond the realms of possibility, because a very close sort of biological link to a horse, of course, is a goat. Okay? And then you've got, of course, the narwhal, colloquially called as the unicorn of the oceans. So to have a horse with that horn is not a biological or scientific impossibility. Something a little bit different for you now. You may well recognise the layout of the text on the screen here. It's from the Bible, the best-selling book in history, and one of the oldest books in time. The Dead Sea Scrolls are back before the printing press. They are scribed and chiselled into rocks that were then passed down through generations upon generations. And I think it's really interesting that here I can pull out quite simply 6 quotations from the Bible, from different chapters, verses and books of the Bible where they reference unicorns. Now, whether you believe in a higher being or not, you can at least understand and presumably involve yourself in the communication that parts of biblical history are fact. We know that many of the things in the Bible, Herod, for example, was a real king, and they did take a census in Bethlehem around the time of Jesus' birth. Whether you believe he was the Messiah or not actually doesn't come into this. This is a book that does have some basis in fact and historical reasoning. So to find the word unicorn used in many different places throughout, alongside animals like lions, save me from the lion's mouth, for thou hast heard me from the horns of unicorns, tells you that potentially unicorns do exist. Now, hopefully my speech has given you a little bit of food for thought. You may not have seen a unicorn, but these are my reasonings for believing that they're real. I have never seen a dodo in real life. However, I trust all the facts and scientists that they existed. Natural History Museum in London talks about them. I have never seen a tiger in the wild, yet I know that they exist. Therefore, this beautiful animal could well exist. It may be shy, you may never see it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist for the facts and reasons I have given you. Thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate you listening. Are there any questions, please? Yes?
Is there any scientific evidence that unicorns exist?
So obviously my third slide denoted the idea of animals with those horns. Obviously the material that a horn is made out of is it's keratin, I think the word is. It's very similar to what you find in your fingernails, and we know that rhinoceros' horns, for example, are made of that keratin, albeit very strong. Some people's toenails are not the nicest because they can get quite tough. But that arose much quicker and with flesh. So over time, say that unicorns have passed away and through the natural cycle of it, rotted into the earth, we'd find their bones, but we wouldn't always find their horns. So actually it would look like a horse, it wouldn't necessarily look like a unicorn. So I think that that's really important. And there are vast areas of the world that we still don't know about. People say that the cure for cancer is in the Amazon rainforest, and we only know that, we only can presume that, because we haven't explored all the Amazon rainforest. We tend to see unicorns in sort of areas of the globe which tend to be quite colder. So your temperate areas in the north, Europe, but actually there is possibly a train of thought that they're actually available in more tropical climates, and those are areas that are less explored.